Hello and welcome to another episode of Disaster Empire Quick Views. I'm Ashley Guzman, and this is a podcast where we talk to innovative thought leaders in resilience. And I have been waiting to do this podcast for a few weeks, and I'm really excited to have Diana Scolponeti with me here today from the JPH organization. I'm going to let her tell you more about what they are all about. Before we get started, though, they are a great community organization, really focused on recovery and resilience. And I really found them through a retreat. Some of you may know from my Disaster Empire blog that I wrote about recently, and I'll link to that below. But I really want to kick this over to Diana to get us started. Hi, Diana. Welcome, and thank you for coming on to the podcast today.
Hi, Ashley. It's so good to see you again after the retreat. I'm so glad that you got to come.
Excellent. I really felt re-energized and really needed it. It was very timely for me. Before we dive into the questions, can you share a little bit about your background and how JPH organization, how it got started?
Sure. My background, I've worked in nonprofit for, probably the past 15 or so years, working in real grassroots organizations. I'm an event planner by trade. My personal story is that I'm a trauma survivor, early childhood. I've been in recovery for about 20 years from addiction. And what I started doing that you were part of really is in 2016, started doing women's retreats with a friend of mine, Katie Sharon, who's involved in the JPH organization, our program director. And we found that people really needed wellness. We didn't realize how much. And we spent a lot of time talking to people about that over the years of doing retreats and working on community projects. And we, as a group, decided that we wanted to create an organization that really focused on bridging the gap of wellness for people.
Thank you so much for that. And to me, what really struck home, because it was the first time I had attended one of your events, is really the focus that your team has on creating community and how much that's needed, like you said, after COVID, the last few years and everything else that people have been dealing with. It was just so wonderful to be in a room, in this case of women, and really feeling that positive energy. And I don't think we've been experiencing that enough lately and really building resilience. And as followers of this podcast know, that's what I talk about, whether it's personal resilience, business resilience, workforce resilience, all aspects of it, and really trying to build that. So I really want to support JPH.org and the work that you're doing. And can you talk a little bit about your feeling about resilience and what you're trying to build in the community right now?
I think, for me, resilience is really, I grew up in a traumatic situation. I had a brother that had mental illness. Sadly, he committed suicide. Due to just after 22 years of trying to get better. I think when you go through a long-term illness with a family member like that, for myself, getting sober and having to change my lifestyle in my 20s to be able to heal really taught me about resilience and how you have to endure difficult times. But what was really the thing that supported me was my community. I had a wonderful community of women around me that essentially took care of me, my mother included, and other women, older women that sort of nurtured me through that, traumatic times. And I think that's really what we try to foster here is to further the belief that community can really heal you and help you and support you to be resilient during times of great challenge. And, not enough people talk about the challenges that they go through. And a lot of people look at them as adversities. But at JPH, we really believe that they're your pack of power, your, amazing strength, that you've come through something that's been challenging and you've learned to adapt and heal and transform through that. It's really a powerful, foundation for your life.
Diana, you're the only organization that I know of its kind on the South Shore here in Massachusetts doing exactly what you're doing. So could you share with this audience a little bit about the services that you're providing through the center right now?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. We started in 2020 because of COVID, actually, there was nobody was able to gather, and our center property has 9 acres. And so we had a lot of outdoor space. So we started with a small community supporting one woman, and it was like 5 of us at the beginning. And we ended up, now we've got about probably 200 women that come just through that one meeting that we had for recovery. We also have support groups for women's wellness. We now have an anxiety support group where you can learn about Eastern and Western ways. We do yoga retreats, art therapy. We have so many different programs here that people can really dive into and dial into. And we try to be a place that you can plug into to find community, to find common interests and people that connect. And also it's a great place you can walk in and say, you know what, I'm not okay today. And that's okay. You know,
I definitely saw that support during the Renewal Wellness Retreat a few weeks ago. And it was just really great to see that safe space being offered to people who were at various stages, you know, in their own recovery or in their own wellness journey, whether they were, you know, having mental health issues or, if you said, you know, recovery, working on that journey, or just the struggles of everyday life and dealing with the stress that many of us, you know, have to face from day to day, from everything going on in our lives. So in terms of JPH organization and the way that you are working to support women and members of the community, how are you doing that today? What is really your philosophy on supporting people to start their healing journey?
Well, it's pretty simple stuff. I sort of take the things that people did for me when I was getting better. And, you know, the simple philosophy of when my brother passed away, one of my chiropractors put a blanket over me and just gave me comfort. And that's really what we do here. We embed hospitality. I'm sure you felt it when you came in. We're very focused on, because we are event planners too, and we're used to providing hospitality for people. It was an easy fit for us to be able to provide, you know, a cup of tea if you need it. That's a lot of, you know, what we do here is, do you want to come in and have a cup of tea and talk about, you know, how you're feeling? And so we really try to just provide a loving, safe environment for people. But the other thing that we do is we do now have a community liaison. Her name is Mary. She's amazing. And when a new woman comes in, they usually get an email or a phone call, and she connects them to different programs that we have here. We also, when we don't see someone for a while, we actually give them a call and say, are you doing okay? What's going on? Do you want to come back? We've got a great program that's here for you. And oftentimes when we make that phone call, it can be a woman that hasn't been able to leave her house because she's got anxiety or she's going through a challenge. And then we really try to track her and see how she's doing. Nobody's doing that in between therapy appointments for people or any of that. And it's a great way to mobilize our volunteers, really.
Yeah. I can just imagine that personal touch must mean so much to the women that you're reaching out to, because I think, you know, it's men and women, but especially for women, you know, you want to be strong. And also often we're caregivers for other people, whether friends or family in our life, children or elders, et cetera. And you want to be the strong one. And often we're the ones keeping, you know, our families and sometimes our friends together too. So I think that's often why so many women fall down, is because they get to that point where they're not nurturing themselves or caring for themselves, and they reach that breaking point. So just really want to commend you and the rest of your team and volunteers for what you're offering.
Oh, thank you so much. I know you really hit the nail on the head there, because we have a lot of women that come in and they'll say, if one more thing gets put on my plate, I don't think I can handle it. And it's truly what women have to manage in today's world, especially post-COVID. So many we hear have children now with mental health issues, and it's really, you know, it's a different world. Yeah. After the pandemic. So we're, you know, excited to be here and to be able to provide this support. It's been, you know, an amazing journey. We didn't expect to have such a need, and the needs vary. You know, every woman has a different story to tell. She has a different, you know, problem she's working through. But the women are so strong. They're so resilient. They really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And Diana, this is a question that I ask all of my guests. What does resilience mean to you?
I think resilience to me means surviving, but it also really means thriving and taking your situation and choosing to look at the difficult parts as the opportunities. Like, what did I learn from this? Because once you're able to look at a challenge that you've gone through and you can turn it around and say, these are all the amazing gifts that came out of even the worst thing that happened to me, that provides a pattern for resilience that can carry you through your entire life. So to me, that's truly what that means.
Absolutely. Hey, so, again, as I said, it was my first time, and I really had not been at the Ferry Hill Center before. And the genesis of the center is so amazing, and your own personal connection with it. Can you share with the audience a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always loved Ferry Hill Center. It was formerly called the YWCA in Cambridge. So my years here, but my husband and I were actually caretakers of the property for a few years when our kids were young, and we just got very connected. It's an old historic farm. So it was once a dairy farm owned by a gentleman named Victor Belanger. It's been saved twice in its history from being developed into housing units. And now we just have the big job. It has years of, deferred maintenance. And so we've been fixing it as we go. And we have replaced roofs and put in heating systems and emptied. I think it took us 7 30-yard dumpsters to empty out the building. But we did that all during COVID, and it was a good project for COVID because there was a lot of, downtime and there was a lot of work to be done here. So we were grateful for the opportunity.
Diana, can you give us a sense of how large the JPH org community is right now? And I know that you've been building influence and connections within the local community. And certainly, you're not in my hometown, but I traveled to be there. And I was so glad and so happy that I did, because the energy was great. The whole day of the retreat of yoga and meditation and the art therapy and the nutrition, right? And the food you provided, and just the company and the ability to meet women, who were like-minded and were there for similar reasons, was really just such a treat. It's something that I don't find in my everyday. I work from home the majority of time if I'm not traveling, and it was just great to kind of sit back and relax and rejuvenate.
I know that's the thing. People come in here and they say all the time, like, I just feel peace when I walk in the door. It's like their relaxation place. And we love providing that. I would say our project really got started with families sort of talking and saying, you know what, something's wrong here. We need something different. And so that started with multiple families being involved. We just added on a wellness team. We have our first doctor signed on. We've got probably 25 or 30 people that all work in holistic health, or social workers, therapists. So in total, we probably have about 100 people working actively on teams right now. And that just expands every day. So it's super exciting. And we get new people in the door, and, everybody's, it's the right time, I think, for JPH.
And I'm getting goosebumps because it feels like the Field of Dreams movie, like build it and they will come. Yeah. And I know that you had shared during the day that, it was your dream, that you had really admired the property and loved the property for so long. And for it now to be nurturing and fostering this vision is really amazing to see it all coming together the way that it is. And I know you're going to continue to grow and expand. So really excited to participate in my small way and supporting you to do that. I really feel like community is something that's missing from so many of our cities and towns and villages out there. And, it's such a great thing that you're doing and trying to build that and offering place for people to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people are really away from that. And it's a big disconnect for people's wellness. It's just fundamental to feeling well is feeling like you're part of a community and that someone has your back. And for us, sometimes we're actually replacing, broken family systems for people. And so we become their family essentially, because the family that they've been, their family of origin maybe has gone through some trauma, is dysfunctional for them. And so we can provide, a happy, healthy family that they can, rely upon. So it's really a beautiful concept. And I hope that it catches on with everybody. And I hope we're not the only people that come up with this idea. I hope everybody says we need to do this.
See this grow.
Yeah.
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 Definitely a pay it forward opportunity,
Yeah.
right? And I'd love to see it blossom just like you're saying. And I think just for the audience too, I mean, that's what I saw in my experience, women from all walks of life and backgrounds. And, so you don't have to be any specific type or, anything. Just I saw women coming together from wherever they were, right? In their own journey, in their own lives and supporting each other. And it really was a wonderful experience from that perspective.
Yeah. And what I think we see here is people that come in and it breaks down every barrier, because once, as you knew, when you were in that retreat, women shared where they were at, it was like, you didn't have to pretend that you were okay if you weren't. And, other people here that are doing well support the people that aren't. And so, I think it's really, it's a space for people to be able to process and feel comfortable. But that comes down to hospitality. The first rule of making someone feel comfortable when you have them over to your house, is you offer them a drink. My mother always taught me that. Offer them a drink, offer them a cup of tea, make them feel at home. So we really try to embed that into our society here.
Excellent. Hey, so one thing I did want to ask you is, what does the community have in store in the near term and in the future coming up that people could get involved in?
Yeah, well, what's been really coming up for us is actually we've been getting a lot of requests from healthcare workers and nurses who are really desperate for support groups. So we're actually going to be launching those in some first responder groups as well. So I think we're going to see here the people that have been truly impacted by the work during the pandemic are now ready to process that experience they've been through. We've met with a lot of nurses and they've told us, what healthcare is like for them now. And it hasn't stopped. So, when you go through something and you haven't had a moment to process it. Eventually you have to. So a lot of them have reached out to us. So we're working on programs like that. We're working on community dinners, like come in and have a bowl of spaghetti with us and, things that the community can engage in. We've got wonderful youth wellness programs coming up. So a lot of new great programs. That's Katie does an amazing job bringing in all the right people. So we're excited.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know I could keep talking to you about this all day, but we do have to wrap up. But I wanted to give you the opportunity to share. Is there anything else that you'd want to share with this audience that we haven't talked about yet today?
Well, I think it's important to let people know that we have a new website up, and in that space, there's opportunities for corporate people to log in their experience. If they are willing to give us 30 minutes of their time, we database everybody that sends their information in. If people want to make corporate donations, we have a corporate program for that. So any way that we can support what we're doing here, this initiative and this movement, we welcome it. But we actually, really benefit from sitting down with people that work in the different areas of business and ask them, for their opinion on projects that we're working on and things that we're trying to fund. And we've met some amazing people and they all bring something to the table. So we would love any help like that.
Great. Excellent. And I'll link to the website below. And I know I found some things on Eventbrite in terms of upcoming activities. I think there's a yoga breakfast and a few other fun events happening as well. So really excited about that. Can you share a fun fact about yourself before we wrap today?
Sure. Geez, a fun fact. I don't know. What do people share? What do they usually say?
A lot of different things. I'm thinking of for you. I don't know if you want to share a little bit about how your journey came to be with the property at Ferry Hill Center, because I know you had a nice relationship with the caretakers of the camp.
Yeah. Well, my husband and I actually took care of the camp for a very long time, but, so we've always loved the property. This has been an opportunity where I think I've been able to, really improve the property, which is something I always wanted to do. But one of the, I think the really fun facts about JPH is the way that we got the name. JPH stands for the James P. Harrington Organization. But Katie, my girlfriend that I worked with for so long, we've been working together since 2016, found out that, and we never really picked up on this, but that her maiden name was James and my maiden name was Harrington. And that was actually my brother's name was James Harrington. So that's sort of the genesis of the JPH name, which is really just representative of families being involved together to make progress,
Such a great connection. And it seems like in listening to you guys, there are so many of those happening.
Yeah.
So I just feel like synergy. This is a meant to be.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Organization that's building and definitely growing. So I wanted to thank you again for coming on the channel and the podcast today. I really appreciate your time. And to the listeners, I appreciate your time as well. I hope that you learned something interesting and new, and please support JPH.org. Again, I'll link that information below and get involved if you can. If you're in this area, if you're interested in talking to Diana and her team about how you could replicate this potentially and do this in your own communities, I'm sure that they would be willing to chat with you about how they got started and what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. It's so good to see you again.
Same here. And please like and share. That helps the channel to grow. So Diana, thank you again so much. And I wish you all the best in what you're doing.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for all you do.